evening, everyone. It's nice having you here, and it's a huge welcome to our first Bauchi Business Clinic. And my name is Abbas Mohammed. It's a real pleasure to be your host today. So we're all excited to kick off this incredible week with you all today. Today, which is Monday, August 11th, 2015, by 4:30. And we'll be rounding up, inshallah, by 6 p.m. So my co-host for today is Fatima Ali Adamu, who will be joining us after the presentation for the Q&A. So before we jump in, so it's a quick heads up. So you can feel free to drop your questions for our speaker in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And also don't forget to follow our social media handles at the Work Foundation. So Fatima will be keeping an eye on them. You can also use the chat to connect with your fellow attendees. So, all right. So today's session is all about business foundation and mindset. So to get us started, we've got an amazing speaker. It is really an honor to introduce Aisha Bala Wunti from the Prime Promise Capital Ventures. So Aisha is a renowned expert in her field, and she's dedicated to her career to helping people build strong businesses from the ground up. She's going to be sharing some of her truly illuminating insights on business, foundation, and mindset, and you won't miss it. So with that being said, please give a virtual welcome to Aisha Bala Wunti. So Ms. Aisha, the floor is yours. You're very much welcome.
Well, somebody is doing the round of applause. I thought you were going to say give a round of applause. I wonder how well, now I see how we do that virtually. So hi everyone, good evening, and I'm hoping that 1 second, I'll try to turn on my camera. Okay, hi everyone. I'm hoping we've not had too long of a day, but I'll try to make this session as fun as I can for, an evening, like ready to close out of work type of session. So I'll try to make it as engaging as possible. So he's done at least a little bit of introduction. My name is Aisha Bala Wunti, and I'm the founding partner and CEO at Pen Promise Ventures, now actually rebranding into Pen Promise Capital as a fully licensed company by the SEC. I guess my educational background is more along the lines of green energy engineering. I spent the initial part of my career thinking I was going to go into research, and so a lot of biofuel and green energy as a whole. But somewhat eventually found myself in venture capital, and now in alternative finance as a result of my passion, to really helping people build out businesses. So for me now, our work at Pen Promise Capital is focused on using private capital, mostly local as opposed to foreign, to see how we can build the next batch of transformative companies across Africa. So being asked to speak about, I think, business foundation and mindsets, I wouldn't say it's so. It's sort of like a review of maybe the initial stage of review that we do every day across a number of companies, that we're looking at. So on average right now, we're doing about 1,000 to 2,000 company reviews every quarter. And so I think if, I can add a little bit of my own insight into understanding whose mindset has worked the best from the founders that we've reviewed, and also some of the core foundational principles that I've seen that always, reproduce a success. So when you're thinking about your business, I want you to think about it like a road. If you've seen a number, so fun fact, I just learned this last week from my husband. So the road leading to our house gets destroyed every raining season. And so I thought, oh, this time around they're fixing it. And I thought they're doing a really good job, right? They're cutting out patches of the coal and the coal tar. And I thought, okay, it's quite deep. But then he explained something around how actually the geographical planes are moving about at like a millisecond or something like that. And so whenever a road is actually bad, it's because the foundation of it hasn't been built properly. So there's a need to sort of dig in, the holes and sort of fill it in with whatever. If that is done, that's the only way where the coal tar sort of stays the test of time. And that's what we, see in what we classify as good roads. And so when you don't have that, and I think once you start going into like the local governments, the streets, we get a lot of that where if the core foundation is not strong enough, over time, things will wear out until a point where it doesn't exist anymore. And to be honest, that's exactly the same. So you see a lot of times where businesses are winding down. If you watch a lot of Bloomberg, you hear that businesses are being hated, businesses are being the founder is returning investment money or something, and businesses are closing down. Most times, to be honest, 9 out of 10 times, there's that one company that things will just not work out even when they've done everything right. And to be honest, that's a space of there's still space for like grace and chance, but for most of it, like for the rest of the 9, I would say it's almost always because they didn't get the core of building the business right. So when you're thinking about when you're thinking about business foundation, you're thinking about making sure that where you start, you start out right. So I had a bit of, I think that should be next. I wanted to just engage our audience today and find out. Can we put the questions up? Am I audible? So if we go to the next slide, I think it should be there. After this one, I think. Okay, yes. So I wanted you guys, if we can enable the audience just reply. I wanted you to answer, what does your business do? So you're here for a business clinic. I would like to know what our audience is involved in. So what does your business do? Or what do you want to do with it if you're thinking about setting up a business now? Maybe let's do question 1 and then we can do question 2. We'll take a few responses from that and then we'll do question 2 afterwards. So what does your business do in just one quick sentence, and or what do you want to do with it? Do they have access? I'm not sure I can see the chat box, but do they have access to send in replies? Are we getting some replies?
Yeah, they're having access to the chat box.
Okay. Okay, I think we can take, so I can't see from, but if you can see it, Abbas, can you read out some of the responses that we've gotten?
Yeah, we are yet to get any question.
So I want them to, is anybody sending in responses around, or can we put this up as like a Q&A request? I think we should be able to do that. If I just type that in.
Okay, no problem.
If that is also not working, we can also just have people raising their, maybe let's have the audience raise their hands and then we can just call 1 or 2 people to share with us.
All right, no problem. Yeah, and she's back. So can we proceed?
Yes, we can. Okay, so I can see them now. So Mr. Osman says, I want to simplify financial services. And Mr. Gauzier says, and apologies if I don't get your name right. Mr. Gauzier says, my business is a digital health platform for healthcare management. Ms. Hanifa says, my business does provide affordability. I would want to know what business it is and how it provides affordability. Mr. Mohammed says, laundry services. Fatima says, my business is selling non-tarnished jewelry. Mr. Oluwaferami says, my business intends to meet Bauchi professionals to help balance work life and family, most especially the kitchen and food they consume in their home, making good quality meals. So I'm presuming you want to cater. And let's take the last one. Ms. Hajara says, my business is to breed, I'm guessing this is a typo, but it has something to do with the bird and then sell the birds. Okay, so I think we've spoken now about like some tech companies, some healthcare companies, some some consumer services, so consumer front-facing service businesses. So at least we have like a good mix of people in the audience. So that's good to know. If we go back to slide 2, Abbas, please. Let's talk about what's business foundation. What do we mean when we say business foundation? What exactly are we talking about? So business foundation simply refers to the structured sets of elements that form the base upon which a business operates and grows on. So this is around how does your business operate? How does your business earn money? How does your business grow from, I know someone just said something around growth. So how does your business grow from stage 1 to how does it scale? How does it become like, the vision of your mentor's company that you see on TV? How do you structure the business in a way that it actually becomes, revenue generating? This is essentially what your business foundation is. And then when we move on to business mindset, we're talking about, okay, so when you face a difficulty, when you face a challenge, when you have a setback, when there's a failure, when there's a success, how exactly do you navigate all of these things? What's your mindset approach to these things? How do you take advantage of opportunities, and how do you adapt to change? We're in a country like Nigeria where even from a regulatory perspective, things are constantly changing. So you wake up today and, FIRS says this, you wake up tomorrow and FIRS has changed, what the tax regime is. And, we're constantly, because we are a developing nation, things are constantly changing for business owners. So how do you adapt to that change? You just decide you're going to give up. We've had a fair share of people who sort of close it down and just japa and think, you know what, if they move, maybe it'll be different. I'm not sure it will be much different if you were still setting up your business. Granted that in some more, established spaces, you don't have those changes to adapt to. And so the changes that you mostly focus on are not extremely, large in a way that they could affect the structure of the company, but they would be mostly at ground level, and not like an economic level change. Can we move to the next slide? So like I explained, if we go back, please, like I explained, business mindset, I think I want us to take like the next question before we sort of get to the learning outcomes. So your business mindset are the set of attitudes, beliefs, and approaches that shape how an entrepreneur perceives opportunities, responds to challenges, responds to failures, and drives business decisions. Do you just wake up and because somebody told you that you're going to make 33% back on a bag of onions and you decide, okay, I'm going to give my uncle that farms onions to do is that what dictates your business decision because something is looking great today? or are you calculative about it, and are you looking at, say, 5-10 year projections to inform those decisions that you're taking? So before we fully drive into what are these business foundations and sort of the kind of mindsets that you have to have going into businesses, can we do one more questions? So if you could fix one challenge in your current business today, what would it be? Let's just get 30-second responses, and then we can take some of them and dive in. Okay, so Miss Aisha says digital skills. We have Ms. Karima says seamless and affordable way billing of items. Shafatu says lack of capital. Mr. Abdraman concurs. Mr. Abakar concurs as well. It'll be interesting to see if that perspective changes at the end of this session. Ms. Adeleke says strategy to be used in marketing. Mr. Mustafa also concurs on funding. Mr. Osman says customer-centric strategies. Mohammed says balancing my staff and customers. Mr. Suleiman, which is a very interesting one, price control. Some things are, they're outside of our control. But so again, I think we have a very good mix from people who are thinking about how to scale the business to people who are looking for sort of solutions to help set up the business. And so it'll be interesting. I didn't think about, I don't think I have it at the end of this presentation, but maybe towards the end, we could find out how to, if that changes, if your perspective changes at the end of this. So next slide, please, or maybe next 2 slides. So I wanted to find out why most of the audience has signed up to this program. And throughout the week, you will sort of learn about a number of things that I mentioned in the course of my presentation. But for my own personal presentation today, you would mostly be looking to learn about the core pillars of a strong business foundation. So a number of problems that you've identified are sort of things that are happening once you've actually set up a business. Those are things that you need to be thinking about through that journey. But I want to bring you back to square one. The basis of like, okay, how do you validate that you even have a business idea that is viable, right? What problems are you solving? Whose problems are you solving? So we want to identify what are those core pillars of a strong business foundation. We're also going to see what having a growth-oriented entrepreneurial mindset looks like. And finally, we'll see some practical tools that you can use to start or restructure your business in order to ensure sustainability. Next slide, please. Okay, so this shouldn't say learning outcomes, but these are pillars of a strong business foundation. So we've already defined what our business foundation, what our business foundation should be, right? We've talked about it having, clarity. We've talked about having, systems. We've talked about understanding the structure that will carry the rest of the business, right? So your business foundation there are structured sets of elements that your business needs to stand on. If these do not exist in your business, to be honest, you are only exchanging money. Probably exchanging money, spending a bit of time talking and marketing a lot, right? But it will only get to, it gets to a certain point in time where whatever you call a business, because ideally, if you don't even have these foundational things, it shouldn't be called a business. But whatever you call a business, if you've not been able to identify this, will not survive the test of time. That's one. Two, most importantly, and I want to say this because a number of people said things around capital, right? So a lot of times I get this where people say, we need capital, we need money, we don't have access to financing. But if I asked what the value proposition of the company was today, if I asked what your business model was today, if I asked someone to give me a 5-minute pitch explaining to me what the core of their business is, they couldn't explain it. And so as an investor, especially in situations where you're probably investing institutional capital, so this is other people's money and not your personal money, right? It's like dumping my money in a dustbin, or dumping people's money into a dustbin, because if these foundations don't exist, then you basically have no business. There's no business. You're only calling it. You're probably doing like a buying and selling. Money is flowing through somewhere, but there's no business to it. So one of the first and most important things is a clear value proposition. So what problem do you solve? At the crux of it, if I said, what problem does your business solve? I should be able to get a 1-word answer, or at the, maybe a 3-word sentence. But when we're talking foundation level, I want to know, like, okay, what exactly? I know someone said something about affordability earlier on, and I had to ask, okay, affordability in what? Affordability of what? If I have to question what your value proposition is, then there's no value that you're offering me. If I have to dig into it to really find out what the core of your value proposition is, there's nothing you're selling. You're basically, again, exchanging money. Money is moving from one person to the other, but there's no clear value proposition. So what problem are you solving? Why are you solving that problem? And why should people choose you as a solutions provider for that problem over the other? So a basic example, why do you pick MTN over Airtel? Why do you pick Glo over Etisalat? Why do you pick First Bank, or Money Points in this case? Why do you pick Money Points over First Bank, for example? Why do people pick Zenith Bank? They are all offering the exact same service. But if I ask one of you today, you'll probably be able to say, like, okay, this is the reason why. No, this always has network connection. This has more spread out connectivity across all the states in Nigeria. No, I'm able to travel and roam with this particular network, but then I'm only limited. People have different reasons. And so you need to be able to know who you're solving the problem for, what you're solving, what problem you're solving, and also why people should be able to pick your own business over the others. So this is the kind of clarity that you need when you're, first of all, defining your value proposition. No, like, important maybe investor or important mentor is going to pay attention to you if you can't articulate yourself and express very clearly in less than one full, I'm not talking about one sentence that has 20 words. I'm talking about a very short, brief sentence. If you can't explain it, you're probably not going to be able to get the right kind of attention. And like I mentioned, your business is probably not going to be able to stand the test of time. So someone mentioned, if I remember correctly, somebody said something around clothes. Did somebody say something around clothes, laundry or something? So if I said to you guys today, I sell clothes or I do laundry for people, right? Versus if I came on here and I said, I help busy female professionals in Bauchi look smart and modest with custom-made outfits in 3 days. It's very clear. You understand what I do. You probably get that, okay, I moved my target audience. Who am I solving the problem for? I'm solving the problem for women professionals that specifically live in Bauchi. I'm solving, what problem am I trying to solve? I'm solving the problem of maybe smart and modest wears. So I've probably been able to identify a problem where I'm saying, okay, professionals in Bauchi, they find it difficult because it's a modest economy to dress modestly, but also be able to look smart, sharp, right? And then I'm saying I can give you a custom outfit in 3 days. So this is clear. Whoever you're pitching this idea to, whoever you're selling, versus when I just come here and I say I sell clothes. Okay, who are you selling clothes to? Are you selling old people clothes? Are you selling baby clothes? Are you selling custom made wares? Are you selling imported wares? It's, if you don't know, or if you don't have a defined, maybe if you say I sell clothes, maybe what you're doing is, okay, today somebody makes something, so a tailor makes something and you go and market it. Tomorrow somebody is importing something. You can see that there's a cause of confusion, and this is where I say that there's flow of money. However, you actually don't have a business because there's no core solution or value that you are offering to people. So that's as regards having a clear value proposition. The second important thing is business model. So I want us to take the business model down to the basics. It's a question of how do you make money, right? So again, I'm going to pitch from this example of the person that says they do laundry. So how does a laundry person make money? I've seen various laundry model services. So I've seen those who do a subscription-based model. So you can pay me 5,000 naira every Tuesday. I will come to your house. I'll pick up your laundry and I'll deliver it on Friday, right? So I'm offering you a service of probably 4 times a month, pickup included, delivery included, and then my laundry service for 5,000 naira. And so for me, this is a recurring income because this is happening monthly, right? Versus if I'm saying, okay, give me this shirt, I will wash and iron it for 100 naira. This one I will wash and iron for 250, right? So you see a lot of these different kinds of models. No one way is the best. And, you know, different, I think, you know, with the way the world is advancing, to be honest, you can probably make a subscription out of anything and everything. Or you can have like markups, you can have buy now, you know, there's a number of different business models that you can have, number of different approaches that you can have as regards to how you make money. But at the core of it is, how do you make money? You can see that I'm going to go back to my original pitch where I said, I help busy women professionals in Bauchi State look smart and modest with custom-made outfits delivered in 3 days. If someone were to ask me what my business model is, I could actually say, okay, I'm offering a subscription. I'm offering them a subscription basis where every month you can receive 5 custom-made outfits. You know, maybe 3 months into, I think I see some people raising their hands, and so maybe at the end of this session I'll have to charge for some business ideas. But you can, I've seen people who don't like to shop. They can't be bothered. They don't know how to style themselves. They don't know how to design. So I've seen companies who they just, you know, they rate you at the beginning. They take time to understand their clients and really work their way to understand what their fashion sense is, what, you know, maybe what work for who they are, because the way you dress a teacher is very different from, you know, maybe the way you dress a banker, right? So understanding that first, and then, you know, maybe sending them 5 outfits in the package that they're picking. Or maybe you offer like a catalog of like your own personal designs let's say every quarter. So every 3 months you're coming out with like a new design. These days we call them everything. So maybe if somebody wants to name an outfit, please feel free to name it Aisha. So if you're buying like an Aisha skirt, right? If you're launching an Aisha skirt every 3 months, something like that, you know, so this quarter is an Aisha skirt, next quarter is a Fatima skirt. And then this is the package. So you have like a personalized package of what you're offering. Or you could maybe just be sewing outfits, like, you know, and then you're just charging, or people can bring their fabrics to you and then you pay, you know, they're paying you a service fee on being able to design those clothes. But then there's situations where, you know, you're sourcing the fabrics and you're also doing the design and you're also doing the execution. So there's a number of ways to build about it, but you have to have like a good understanding. Are you selling this product for a one-time use, or are you going to be receiving recurrent income from it? So like the subscription models I've mentioned, are you earning a commission on sales? So maybe you are a third party and you're selling for like a manufacturer and you get, let's say, 10% of all the sales that you're able to drive on. There's multiple business models, to be honest, multiple revenue models as well, but understanding where and how you're going to make money, offering this value proposition to people is very, very important, and it will dictate it's what will dictate you know, your decision on things like pricing, on things like marketing, on things like growth. So if I know I have like a subscription-based service where every month I'm expecting, let's say I have 5 clients paying 5,000 naira, so I know every month I'm expecting 25,000 naira, it's easy for me to take a business decision where I say, okay, I'm going to be spending 250 naira every month on my marketing because I'm expecting this specific amount. I think that should be like 1% or something of that revenue stream, right? Versus if I don't know, if my business model is just, okay, I just sell to one-time users, until I get to a point where I'm able to say, okay, on average a month, I'm servicing 25 people. I'm not able to say, okay, can I actually spend 5,000 naira on marketing this month? Can I, is there room for me to grow and expand my team? Let me hire one more person, right? I can't make those decisions. So you can see how certain business models can help you take or knowing your business model, rather, all business models can help you make those decisions. But knowing and understanding what the business model, what your revenue model is, how you're making money, and when the money is going to come to you, at what pace does the money come to you, and in what batch, how much, that will help you take key decisions as you scale your business. The third thing is market understanding. So I spoke about having a clear value proposition, but more than anything, what I've seen in reviewing companies, to be honest, is people who are building solutions or who have businesses for a market that is non-existent. So nobody actually needs your product. Nobody needs the service that you're offering. So you start a business and you say that people are not patronizing you, or maybe the first month, like your cousins and your aunties and your parents, everybody buys from you. And then after 3 months, nobody is buying anymore because actually it was just your family members that were patronizing you, right? I'm sure you have one or two people who who had that problem. You just think the person that sells popcorn in that school makes money, and so you set up a popcorn business without understanding, the reason behind why the popcorn seller in the school is making money. She's targeting a whole different audience. She's in a place where it's children. So children are, the word can't come to me, but children don't think. They just buy what they see. If it's popcorn, if it's ice cream, if it's whatever, right? Versus if you now go and maybe you work, maybe your house is like based in a financial district, so you have mostly banks around you, or so who's going to buy from you? Who will end up buying from you, right? Same thing if you look like, if you think about the ice cream and yogurt sellers that we used to have like in front of school all the time. It's understanding where you are positioned, where you are located, what exactly is the problem that these people have. Once you've understood the problem that they have, then sit down and do a proper analysis of how many of these people can actually buy this thing I'm selling. So if I said I'm going to be a popcorn seller targeting primary school children from ages of 5 to 10, and my plan is to just get a van or a tray or whatever and go to the front of all these primary schools between the hours of this to this. So I know I'm not even expending time on doing multiple other things, right? I'm just limiting maybe it's just 1 hour just before they close that I'm going there. That's when I'm spending my energy. I'm not going out to go and stand from morning till night, because I understand that, okay, this market is only available to me in a short period of time. They don't dictate the hours that they work. It is only when their parents or their wards come to drop them off at school or when they pick them up that I have that understanding. So you can see how having that market understanding, you get to know your customers deeply, you know their needs, you know their preferences, your spending habits. So like I mentioned, kids can be very irrational versus, if you went to like a financial district where the average person is very, their financial knowledge is up there, where they are calculating, maybe they're on a budget and they know not to spend, just like that. There's a budget of what they can spend against maybe miscellaneous, whatever, right? So if you decided to go there, you might not make as much of a sales as the other person. So understanding these spending habits, understanding also your competitors. So you want to launch a laundry service business in a place where maybe every 1 mile there's somebody that washes and irons clothes, right? What makes you stand out? If you have this market understanding that, look, in this market, every 1 mile, there's someone, versus if you're in a place where every 25 miles is only when you can find someone, you know that if you position yourself well, the entire of the 25 miles can be your market and only you exist there. Versus if it's every 1 mile where even a 20, and you can also charge, as much as you want because you don't have direct competitors in the space. So really knowing, really having an understanding of the market is very, very important, so that you can clearly say to me, like, this is the market that I'm going to, that I'm building this business for, right? And this is why, because I've been able to identify that this is their habits, this is their spending habits, this is what they prefer, this is what they would like people to have. Regarding compliance and structure, I think you probably have like more sessions towards things like this later on in the week, but it's very important, I think, without the saying, if anybody has been following up also with the tax reforms that we have, it means that if a certain amount of money is even passing through your personal account, they've now given the banks the right to sort of hold you ransom, or close down the accounts, which means what? That the government is even cracking down on people being even more compliant. So it's very important that you are registering your company with the CAC. It's very, very important that you're keeping financial records. It's very important that you're paying taxes. It's very important that you have a structured basic governance level. And where governance level becomes very important is versus if you are your MD, you are the owner of the company and you report to your business alone, versus if you have like, you put a bit of structure where you say, okay, this is a chairman and this is like another independent director, you're able to actually sit down and assess yourself. You know, there's someone to call you if there's someone to call you out if you're not doing well. When you sit down and assess yourself, you know, you can't just, versus when you're the only one that's in charge, you can't just do whatever and behave in, you know, erratic manners. You have to take business decisions that, say, your chairman or directors that are involved. And to be honest, people think that these governance structures are only for like fancy, like top scale companies, but that's not true. There's a lot of you know, small size businesses who have, you know, it's just the mentor that you have, ask them to be a director, but don't find a mentor that, okay, if they serve as your director, you're just going to be able to say yes, no, whatever you say, however you run it. If there's someone you're accountable to, that you can go to, the person can call you out and tell you, no, I don't approve of this, and you can actually take their perspective from a legal point of view. Why? Because they are your board. It's always important. You want to be thinking about this compliance and you want to be thinking about structure. You might not have it day one when you start the business, but if you're thinking about it day one, in a year's time, you're already positioning yourself well enough for someone to be willing to come on as a director on your board. You also want to make sure that depending on the type of business that you're doing, you want to make sure that contracts, agreements, who are your suppliers, you have invoices, are you documenting your business process, or do we just wake up and your accountant just sends money out to anybody? How does the money leave your business? Is there like an approval? Is there an approval point? Does somebody approve from and a different person disburse the money? Do you have thought process around how do we finalize which vendor we order something from, or are you just taking the vendor that is available, you know, that's nearest to you? Are you doing an analysis of like, okay, versus if I order here or if I order in China, what are those implications, right? It's only when you have well-defined company structures that you can make those decisions. Also, I want you guys to be thinking, because a number of people did speak about capital, you did speak about skill. You can't scale and you can't approach people to give you money. That is not charity. Remember, when you say people should invest in you, it's not charity. So you can't meet people when you don't have a well-documented process. If someone comes to me and says, okay, this is my plan, but I plan in 1 year to have a board consisting of 3 people, this is what the 3 people are going to be doing. You know, that's, and I know that this founder or this entrepreneur is thinking about it 360 and already has those thoughts in place. That's probably going to be a stronger entrepreneur than someone who has not even thought about it, who maybe when I ask them, okay, what is the organizational structure going to be looking like in 3 to 5 years, they have no idea, right? They don't even know because they've not thought about it, they've not planned it. You also want to make sure that it's not just enough to say, okay, I've registered my business name, I have a CAC record. We're unfortunately from one of the places where we think trust applies to everything. You should be having a contract for anything and everything you're doing. If you are ordering something from someone, ask the person to give you an invoice. And these days, even a WhatsApp written contract actually stands in court, right? So there's no excuse to not have anything documented that I am buying, I'm buying 10,000 bottles of water from Mr. Abbas Mohammed, right? And at this price, and he's going to deliver it on this date. There's no reason why you can't have that written even on a WhatsApp. I know of people who have gone to court because it was written on a piece of paper. No, like thorough agreement. All that matters is I wrote that I'm buying this from you and I'm going to pay you this, and so you have to give me this on so and so date. I sign and you sign, right? So these sort of contracts, if I probably get into asking some of our audience members, we'll have a lot of people asking questions around like maybe they got scammed, maybe someone that they really trusted was supposed to deliver something, or they got into a commodities business with someone and then the person, you know, maybe promised them like a 50% return and you only ended up with like a 10% return. We get all these stories every day, and it's because we take trust over contracts. Absolutely nothing wrong with doing contracts. In fact, if the person is your friend, if the person is your peer, if the person is, you know, in your same, you know, cycle, they should want to support you by having something formal and being signed. So those are all the things that form under understanding like compliance and structure. And the last one is leveraging local and cultural context. This is also something that we deal with a whole lot. Why? Because we're in the burst of this digital era and people think, I've seen a company that does wonders. This company builds jets specifically for female chihuahuas in Delaware, right? And so you decide that, okay, this is a fantastic idea and I know I can build, I have the technical skills. I'm going to build a similar solution in Bauchi for female chihuahuas. And then, you build the solution and it's like, okay, where are the female chihuahuas? Do they exist in the climate that you are? So understanding your local and cultural context is very important. Don't transport ideas. Some ideas you might see that work in Lagos and in Abuja don't work in Bauchi because what? The markets that you're targeting is not as advanced, or perhaps the markets does not even exist. So you're trying to sell a particular product to a group of people who maybe on average only 5% of them own mobile phones, but what you're building is an app that you need a mobile phone, to use before you can provide that service. So it's very, very important to look in-depthly at, look, where am I positioned? Where have I found myself? So if you go to so I'm talking the world now, if you look at the West and you look at the East, the way they operate is completely different. So if you're looking at places like Japan, you're looking at places like China, the way that businesses operate is very different from, say, the America, the Canada, the Europe that we're used to seeing. Why? Because cultural context, even for them, the way that, they behave, they have a more communal based living arrangement. So you see that mortgages factor in, for example, the fact that your grandparents are known to move in with you. Sorry, your parents are known to move in with you once they reach their retirement age. They're the ones that are supposed to take care of the kids. This is what happens in the East versus in the West where it's a nanny, right? So we know that, okay, by the time my parents are 50, 60, they are moving into one house. We only need to have one house and all our mortgages can contribute to this house. So if you were going to design a mortgage product, you can't take that same mortgage product that you're designing where maybe it'll be like a 5% cost on and this is very arbitral, but if it's like a 5%, you can't take that same 5% cost and try to model something like that in the West, where nobody lives with anybody. So your parents don't live with you, your grandparents don't live with you, your children can move out once they're 16, right? And so they will be on their own different mortgage. So you can't design the same product for different markets because you have to understand. And that's a very, very, very key pillar. So if you go back to the value proposition that I gave you in the beginning, that's the reason why I said it's for women professionals in Bauchi. And so what do you already have when you're thinking about context? That most likely the difficulty that women professionals in Bauchi have is finding modest, culturally appropriate, formal clothes to wear to the office. That's probably why I'm creating. So I've seen that in this my environment. But if I built that same business, for example, in Saudi, or if I went to Bahrain to build that same business, I might not be as successful because even the largest stores, on the streets, they provide this service to everybody already. So people would look at it as weird, like, why are you coming to come and build like a separate business for these people where this is an average thing that is available across the country? Right, so having local context is very important. And just before we head to the next section, I would like to also throw in a quick chat question. Let's get our audience engaged again. I see a number of people have their hands up, but we'll probably reserve question and answers to the end. Can you clearly state your target customer in one sentence? One sentence, not more than 5 words, please. Don't give me a sentence that has like 20 words. Who is your target customer? Can you let me know in one sentence? Let's take a 30 seconds break to see what the responses are. Okay, so I'll try to take some and then maybe try to give perspective so that you understand the benefits of having these pillars. So Mr. Mohammed has said, no, Mr. Ibrahim has said restaurants, but I'm going to ask what kind of restaurants? Is it a takeout restaurant? Is it a fine dining restaurant? Is it a vegetarian restaurant? Is it a halal restaurant? Right? Is it a restaurant for kids? Is it a restaurant for the sick? So are you having a restaurant for people who have like special needs, like diabetes, special diets, obesity, things like that, right? So this is not clear enough, which is the essence of this session. We want to be able to know, right? So your target can't just be restaurants. So you probably need to be able to have like a specific target. Is it also restaurants that are based in China, or is it restaurants that are based in Abeokuta? That needs to also be clear, right? Mr. Mohammed says Ariwa students. So exact same thing, Ariwa students. And if you've been able to position it well, you might figure out that Ariwa is quite large. And so what segment of Ariwa are you targeting? What segment of Ariwa students are you targeting? Are you targeting nursery school kids, primary school PhD students? Who, right? Also, are you looking at private school students, or are you looking at public school students, right? You can see that by asking these questions, it will also determine like, okay, how much will I charge? How will I approach them? Because if I'm targeting primary school students versus if I'm targeting PhD students, the product offerings I will have because of the way that they will behave will be completely different. Also, if I'm doing private school versus public school. So that's where it says it needs to be clear. That one sentence with 5 words that I'm asking for needs to be everything around those 5 words needs to be around the student. So if I say, for example, I'm targeting primary school students, I'm just trying to think of the top. I don't know what your product is, so it's difficult for me to define your target customer. But if I say primary school students in private schools in the northeast of Nigeria, or something like that. I don't know what your business is, so it'll be tough to sort of do that. Someone says their target customer are youths. Great, because why? You have about 50% of the entire world, 7 billion customers, right? So if you take 50%, you're looking at 3.5 billion customers, but who in the 3.5 billion customers? I'm not sure we have a single business on earth who is able to sell things to all 3.5 billion customers. So youth target, great target customers to have, but who among the youths are you targeting? Doctors? Are you targeting people who have financial savings? Are you targeting entry-level young adults? Who are you? What exactly are you building? It's not really clear. Someone said my target customers are mostly my friends because I sell used clothes, right? So there's always a problem when your only market is your friends and your family. Family, you can't stop being blood with, but what happens if you stop being friends with them? Does that mean your business ceases to exist, right? So also, this is not a target customer. You can't build, because I'm not sure, again, I know of one person who has over 1,000 friends. If you don't have up to 10,000 friends, there's no reason to build businesses around your friends. On average, you need around 10,000 active customers to be able to build a business to scale, at least what is known as global scale. So this is also not a target audience, and it's not well defined. So someone says, non-tarnished jewelry, right, designed for women who love to style without worrying about rust or fading. So again, this is defining the products. It is not defining who your target customers are. So you sell non-tarnished jewelry. If you sell non-tarnished jewelry, you're probably targeting a lower income bracket who want to look good but can't afford the actual expensive metals that don't tarnish, right? So they can't afford like platinum, they can't afford diamonds, right? So you already know that, okay, you're targeting women who are maybe in an income tax bracket of this. What kind of jewelry are you selling? If you're selling like gold-plated jewelries, for example, you're probably targeting like an audience that is used to, I don't want to say weddings, but things like that, because that's why countries like India, Nigeria, probably like Pakistan as well. That's why non-tarnished jewelry sells, like the gold plated. That's why it sells there, because they have big events. So you're targeting women who are in markets that have large, excessive 500 number type events, right? I'm not sure the average woman like wears this jewelry and walks around in the house. So it depends what are you doing, right? And then you can properly define women who are what. Women who also earn what, they are lower tax income people, and so they can't afford the expensive jewelry. But you should be able to say that in 5 words. I'm only expatiating. Someone says the general public, that's all 7 billion of us. I'm sure you know that is not a well-defined target audience. So someone also says, my target audience are women. That is also around 50% of the world. So that is also 3.5 billion people, not well-defined. Someone says everyone that is in IT builders, IT administrators, IT consumers, right? Who are you building for? What part of IT are you building? Computers? Are you in AI? What aspects of information technology? It's not clear as well. This is interesting. So Ms. Hanifa says high financial class women 18 to 60 years old. So this is maybe the most well-defined one I've seen. It's not there, but it's the most well-defined one, because at least you have a bracket, right? And you know that you're looking for people who are the more high net worth individuals. So this is, it's at least it understands the perspective of where we're coming from. Someone says my target customers are tech savvy individuals and small business owners who want quality smartphones. So I'm not going to focus on the bottom part because this is now your value proposition. Tech savvy individuals and small business owners. So this is also quite good, quite well, but I think it could be more well defined. There's a lot of tech savvy individuals. What markets? Where are the people that are positioned? So business owners, where maybe that might help, sort of create more of a target direction if maybe you had like a location attached to it. Because if you say tech savvy individuals, that could be like, again, like 3.5 billion people in the world. And why it's important to not, people think it's great when you have a very large potential customer base. It can be, but it can also be a cost in disguise, because you want to be as specific as possible. That's the only way you can build things to really cater to these people. If you have a customer base, if you have a potential customer base, say of 1 million users, to be honest with you, it's tough. But if you think about it, you can take like 3 years speaking to each. If you had to, for example, you can take 3 years, and it's possible to actually speak to each and every single one of these people and understand what their pain points are, because you've been able to narrow it down to a niche where it's just this 1 million people. But if your consumer base is 3.5 billion, even if you spend the rest of your life doing this, you'll never be able to understand what the pain points and how much less like changing and evolving, bettering your products, enhancing it. So you want to be able to have not too small of a niche where it's just like 20 people there, but good enough that you potentially can speak to a representative of each of the groups that you have within your target audience. And by doing that, by the time you've spoken to 100 people, you have a good representation of what your markets, your target market looks like, right? And so you're able to, why it's important, this is what will determine what kind of business, how you shape the business, how you also price them. Remember, we spoke about business, your revenue, your business model, right? Having this specific target market can also lead you to understand, like, okay, when are they salary earners, so they get money at the end of the month, and therefore you target your pay to be at the end of the month, right? So again, we can go on and on, but I'm sure that based on these examples, you've been able to get well, I've said fashion lovers, sick individuals, everybody gets sick. All 7 billion of us get sick. What kind of sick individuals are you targeting? You might be targeting children, children with, special needs, or children born with specific disabilities from age of this to this in Bauchi State, right? If you did that, there's probably an opportunity that you could actually go and meet each of these people and say, okay, what do you need? How can I better enhance my product for you? So I think that's clear. Let's move on to mindset aspects. So as an entrepreneur, and can we go to the next slide? As an entrepreneur, what kind of mindset do you need to have? So survival versus strategic thinking. I think I spoke about earlier around, are you just buying a bag of onions because somebody told you the price has rapidly increased, right? You need to move away. For you to be a good entrepreneur that will survive the test of time, you need to move away from just survival thinking of like, okay, this is what will make me the next quick money, into strategic thinking. So you want to ask yourself, where do I actually want this business to be in 1 year? Where do I want this business to be in 5 years? If you've been able to define that I want to do this for so and so people by this time, it's easy to take decisions that are slow and steady, but will ultimately get you there. whenever you're approaching mentors or approaching investors, they want to see that you're thinking strategic thinking. I don't want someone who's going to tell me I'm going to get the next business government contract to supply tractors farmers, and then you say you're an agripreneur, that you are doing something for the agricultural space. No, you are in survival thinking because you're thinking about what will generate the next amount of money in your pocket, which means for me, I'm not interested in coming along with you. Once there's no money in that space anymore, once there's nothing in it for you anymore, you're not going to stick around for the test of time. And therefore, I know that the business will die. So if you're only thinking survival, how do I wake up today? You have to be able to balance it, of course, because you first of all need to exist, right, before you can grow in 1 to 5 years. But you need to be able to balance and move towards more strategic thinking. You need to be able to have resilience and adaptability. Bounce back. What happens after a setback? What happens after a regulatory change? What happens when the government now says you can't use your business accounts to do your personal accounts to do businesses anymore? Are you just going to close down your business? You want to have that resilience and be adaptable to changes. Some of these changes might be very small. Some might be more, from an economic regulatory perspective, that might even need you to change your complete entire business offering. But you need to be able to be resilient. You also need to have a growth mindset versus having a fixed mindset. So a growth mindset means you can adequately capture, opportunities. You can adequately, you can view challenges, you can view failures as opportunities. Where you see also economic failures, you see them as opportunities to set up and establish a market versus when we just complain. So one good thing for all of you guys that are here is that Nigeria, to be honest, as much as if you're on the Japa train, is the best place to make some money. Why? Because when there's a lot of failure, there's a lot of opportunities. So what we have are the group of people who have run away because there's a lot of failures, a lot of setbacks, a lot of regulatory change that is affecting them. But to some extent, it depends, and sometimes it depends on what you are willing to put on the line. There are the smart entrepreneurs as well who have stayed behind and are taking advantage of the fact that Nigeria is a developing economy and there are problems in every single sector, and then solving those problems. It's a hard, painful road, but once you have this growth mindset, you will get to a point where 5-10 years, the sky is the limit really to how much you can go. Discipline in execution. So you meet on this chat now, I've seen people who have the same business idea. I always say that if I give 1,000 people all the money that they need in the world, it'll be very difficult for me to come out with 10 people who build a successful, scalable, world-class business, because everybody can say it, everybody can preach it, everybody can research it. Only a few of us can execute. Right? Not everybody has this executive mindset. For you to be an entrepreneur, for you to lead a business, you must be an executor. You will have situations where your staff is not able to deliver and you need to be able to submit like a pitch tomorrow. What happens? Are you going to be able to, get your hands good and dirty? Are you able to go on the field and do the work? Or would you always have to, if you are waiting for other people to do it for you, then you actually don't have a business and you're not leading one. And finally, of course, network and social capital. Your social currency is, your network is your social currency, right? Who you know, the events you go for. This is the time where you want to go for any, you want to join all the associations, all the organizations that have to do with your niche. It is from going there, speaking to people, meeting people, sometimes even speaking at these platforms that you open yourself up to opportunities to meet someone who can, mentor you, or meet someone who can push opportunities your way. Relationships are most, much valuable than money. They will buy you what money cannot buy you. And so to round off this aspect, this is very, some of these things I believe we already know. But I want to ask, who inspires you in business and why? And I think I want us to touch on this so that you have a good understanding of the kind of people that have this entrepreneurial mindset. So just another short 30 seconds. Who inspires you and why? Fantastic. Ms. Karima says Dangote's unwavering consistency. And I see a number of people, everybody echoes it. Mr. Sadiq says that. Mr. Ibrahim says that. So I see that someone says, Ms. Umosama says Janan, she's breathing life into a clothing brand. It's very interesting. someone says Salim Elias Ugoje, who is the CEO of something. We see Elon Musk. Someone says Elon Musk. Someone says Mark Zuckerberg, FlexiSaf CEO. So I like the kind of names that I'm seeing popping up, because for all of these people, I can identify a well-defined value proposition, right? I know their business model. I know how they've grown from, a foundational stage all the way to scale, to achieve scale, right? And we see people who are dogged. We've seen Mr. Aliko Dangote be as dogged as one can be of recent times, right? So this is talking about resilience and adaptability. What happens when the government isn't in your favor anymore? Do you throw away your investments or sell them and just decide you're not interested? Because that could have also been, I've seen people who have liquidated their entire assets and just moved to the US, who were probably like, maybe not up to his standard, but probably, millionaires in dollars in their own rights. Okay, and then can we do the final aspect? I don't want to talk too much on this because this is a little bit, can we go to the next slide? This is a little bit of what you'll be talking about, but I think it's important to sort of set the foundational skill, right? So practical tools and strategies for you to achieve this business foundation that we've been talking about. So one is the lean startup approach. This is about starting small. Start small. Don't have a large team. Don't be in a hurry to hire. Test quickly and learn before you invest heavily. So you want to start small. Start with 1 or 2 clients. Test it very quickly. Don't spend too much time designing the most elaborate website, building an app, designing flyers. You have your logo. The people who are in the markets that are making, inquiry markets that are making 10 billion naira every day in revenue, they don't have a logo. They don't have a company website. They don't have an app that they've built. They simply just went for it. And you can say this is just buying and selling, but every business at the core of it is just simply buying and selling. How do I buy either a service or good from you? And how do you pitch something to sell to me? So at the simplest form, please start small. You take a very small aspect. Don't be very ambitious. Yes, you want to have, your final goal in mind, but start small. Test it very quickly. So you package whatever it is you're trying to sell in a very raw form. Sell it to people, right? Offer it to 1, 2 clients. Get your first paying customers, even if you're getting a loss on it. Get your first paying customers. That way you can learn whether this is a service that people are willing to pay for or not. If you ask most of your friends or colleagues that you know that are successful, most times this is how they started. Then once you've learned and you've mastered, maybe you come back, you say, okay, people didn't like it this way. They suggested I do it this way. You do it this way. You reiterate, you go back to the market. And then you now decide, okay, this version I think people like. And it doesn't have to be, this thing I'm talking about applies to all products, whether it is digital or not, whether it is a physical product. Before you invest your capital heavily, don't go and decide I want to start a chicken farm or a poultry and decide I'm going to start with 1,000 birds. Start with 5. Understand like, okay, this was a cycle. This is how long it took me to get to a point where I sold for this. Do your analysis. I was able to get this percent markup, this percentage net revenue, this. The simplest version of your product or service that your customers can try. Get feedback, use that to reiterate, improve, and then launch your product or your service as a whole, right? Another thing is basic financial literacy. Please do. Coursera, you see a lot of free courses. YouTube these days is your friend. Go on YouTube. Understand what it means to be financially literate. There's something they say that Northerners, we're mostly involved in selling, buying and selling. So revenue comes in and it goes out, but we never have a full understanding of, do we actually have profits until the day the business shuts down? Don't be one of those people. Have basic financial literacy where you're able to calculate how much revenue did I make this week? How much of a profit did I make this week before I paid my taxes? Am I entitled to pay taxes? Okay, I'm exempted from paying taxes. So I know that no FIRS person can come. Do your annual auditing, even if it's at a loss. If you if you just get basic little knowledge of how to do these calculations for yourself, you can never get cheated, and you will always make the best financial decisions. Sometimes we make certain investments because somebody has brought something to us and said it will give you 50%. But if you have this basic financial literacy that you can get from a 10-minute YouTube video, you will know that it is impossible for this business to bring 50% returns, because you would know that, okay, this is the operations cost, this is how much the person would use on working capital, this is how much the person will pay their workers. And so automatically, you will avoid making some of these mistakes. Or you go to go and buy a product that is too good to be true, the price was too cheap. If you have basic financial literacy, there's no way you'll go and get raw materials, and be scammed of that. Same thing, low cost marketing. Please don't bother about your logo. Don't bother about your flyers. Don't bother about building a website. Don't bother about building an app. Get your product up and running first. My most important question that I ask, even the most elaborate tech founders that I review, is how can I solve this problem manually? So even with banking, when people come and say we are doing savings, okay, we had this manually. We always had Adashi. Everybody knows we always did this, right? We had Adashi. We had where people were pulling money together to buy something, the communal savings. That is what you have in cooperative societies that has been advanced. So you first of all have to be able to do this business physically, manually, at a ground level, and then you can use technology or whatever to better improve the offerings. So focus on low-cost marketing. You have no business starting. When you conceptualize a business idea, please, the first thing you should do is not your logo. The first thing you should do is go back to the business foundation. What is the value proposition I actually want to offer to these people? And who will even buy this value proposition that I'm packaging to sell? Accessing funding. So again, someone is going to be talking more in-depthly around this, and I see that a number of people have this problem. Your biggest problem is not funding. Your biggest problem is that you actually don't have a business, right? Most times, in fact, 9.999% of the time out of 10 opportunities I review that say they need money, they don't have a business that is investable. So there's no clear defined market target. You also don't have the smallest version. Remember, we spoke about it in the lean startup approach. You don't have the smallest version of your business that you've even been able to package and sell to people. For me to say, okay, this is how you intend to sell it. This is how I will make my money back. And then you're already talking about, okay, I need money. And it's not a charity. Banks, investment houses, capital markets that give you money, they give you money because they expect a return. It doesn't matter whether it's Sharia compliant or it's not, whether it's a social grant or it's not, there's a return that they're expecting. And so you must first of all make sure that your foundational structure as a business is strong enough to be able to give those returns. And that way you can access funding. One thing that it's probably important to say is understand the kind of business that you have. That will help you understand the kind of funding that you can access. We get angry at our banks because we say they're asking for collateral, they're asking for this. But it's because you've not really sat to understand what kind of businesses does a bank finance. A bank holds people's money. So you've given the bank your money to hold for you as a deposit in order for the bank to run the business, because nobody can keep your money for you for free after they've built houses and they've hired 10,000 staffs, right? So they take this money and they give to other people to go and generate a profit. That profit they bring back, and sometimes they split with you. Sometimes they use to run their operational, their operational strength across, all branches. So explain to me now, if the bank gave somebody, we always think from the perspective of the bank giving us the money, but you that have kept your money in the bank. Imagine if the bank took your money and was ever able to give you back the money. When they come and they say, okay, they've given it to someone else, and that person was something, the business was not good, the structure was not good, the business folded down. It wouldn't be funny, right? Because it's your money they've taken. So that's the way you have to look at it when you're also going to take money. It is people's money that they've given to the bank at basically like a 0% cost, because it's free in exchange for the service of the bank keeping our money safe. So understand the kind of financial person, institution or whatever that you're going to first, and the kind of businesses that they fund before you waste your time submitting pitches. If it's not your kind of business, they will never say yes, right? So it's better for you to understand, like, okay, who will give me money? If you are doing a social enterprise business where you are feeding people food, you are going to schools and you're teaching kids, do you think that an investor in the bank will give you money? Because they are not generating any profit. But if you go to like a social maybe impact investor that is based, let's say in Saudi, for example, where the return that the person is getting for this social grant, for this social fund that they have, is the fact that they are making an impact. They want to be able to say, I fed 10,000 students in a school in Bauchi. that's the person you should be pitching to, because you know you can't generate the kind of returns that a bank wants. So it's very important for you. I think that's a key thing I would want you guys to take out from the day that you're having the financing session. Last but not the least, sustainability from day one. And like we've mentioned, sustainability involves the systems that you're building. So documenting your process, keeping your receipts. It won't matter now, but it will matter when you are going to scale. From the day you want to bring in like a huge amount of money, or you want to bring in a partner, someone might ask you, you say that your company is valued this. You say that your company is making this amount of money. How true is it? Can I see receipts? You go to the FIRS and you tell them, I'm a distributor. I can't pay this 30% tax. I'm exempt. How can you show the FIRS that you're a distributor of, let's say, Dangote Cement, where everybody knows that Dangote Cement is sold for the same price in the market? The Dangote company sets, right, the price for it, but FIRS wants you to pay 30%. It's simple. You know, when you have your receipt, you can show like, okay, I bought it for this amount. And you can see I only have a markup of 50 naira as demanded by Dangote Cement for us to get the products into market. That way, sometimes, even if you don't have a distributor license that is directly from Dangote, you're able to show, and you're not liable to pay some certain things, right? So having these documented processes, you might find that, okay, you just started the business, it's not a big deal. Okay, I'm using it to do my personal transfers. It's a business account, but you're using it to pay people. The day that some investor's money or somebody wants to put money into your company comes and they're looking at it, but you're using it to pay, when you bought Kosai on the street, you use that account to pay. Why? Right? Or when you're, filing your taxes, when you're doing your annual audits, all those things, you don't know where the business that you're building today is going to be able to go. Sometimes when people come, they will ask you for 5 years, 10 years reports, right? Sometimes your business might even get to IPO. So you might not even just be from an investor's perspective, but your business might get to IPO, and, who knows, right? So you want to make sure that your documentation, your processes, your receipts, your supplier relationships, everything is well documented, and that you have a system for making sure that everything is orderly. You're not just paying as at when due, but there's a process. Maybe somebody has to do an approval, and somebody has to do somebody has to do an approval, and then a different person does the disbursement. So I wanted us to have, I think is it possible for us to put up the slides? So I had case studies, but maybe this is something we can just share with the audience later on. I wanted to just give you 2 example stories of when having some of these core foundational structures have been really good, and when it's been really, really bad. Is that possible for us to have the slides back up? If we can't, okay, so if we can't, maybe we can just get to Q&A. That was going to be the final aspect of this presentation. So thank you guys so much for your time, and I think maybe we can open up. So Mr. Abbas, are you here? Can you probably open up to take in questions? I know I went a bit over time. We should have had longer for questions, but I'm happy to stay on for like an extra 10 minutes to make up for the question and answer time. So thank you guys so much, and I hope that this business clinic is going to be extremely beneficial to you. Is Mr. Abbas here? Okay, so well, the slides are up.
Yes, I am.
What a fantastic session for us to start this event. Thank you so very much, Mrs. Aisha, for this powerful presentation. You have really given us a lot to talk about. Now, let's go to your questions. I've been watching the Q&A, and we have got some questions. Let's start with this one coming from Bala Alhaji. He said, how do we start business without capital, and how do we mindset our hearts in our business without profit?
Sorry, can you take that question again?
Okay. How do we start business without capital, and how do we mindset our hearts in our business without profit?
Okay, so in terms of how to start, so this basically took you through the process of how to start a business without capital. Everything I've explained to you, which is the whole business foundation, and as well as these practical tools, that's exactly how to do it. You need to be able to package something the smallest iteration of your product that you plan to offer and find someone who will be willing to buy it. The issue is we think we have a business when actually there's no business. So I'll give you an example, and that's maybe this is a good segue to take the chance to do case study. So Meko Autotech is one of our portfolio companies, and I love Meko. I always love to give insights using this company. So this company is an auto tech, right? And the first major thing that they did, which maybe might answer your question, is that they went around. So they basically provide mechanic services. They went around all the states of Nigeria, meeting mechanics, vulcanizers, whatever, on the roads, on the streets, those ones that you see, taking them through like a vetting process and understanding whether or not they can offer the service. So if they say they can patch your tire, can this mechanic actually patch your tire? They did like a segue of going around Nigeria to put together that directory. When they got out, what they were able to have is a list of about 5,000 people, and understanding like where these 5,000 people are located, what mechanic, quote unquote, mechanic services they can offer, right? And whether or not it is certified. The ones that are not certified, they didn't even include them on the list. You know what they were able to do? They built an app where, just like Google Map, if your car stops here, right? If your car stops here in Bauchi, you can easily go on their app and you'll be able to see who is the closest mechanic to you. They didn't have to go and take money from anybody to sell this, but automatically you can see that list of inventory that they were able to create, all they did was, I walked around my neighborhood. Okay, there's a mechanic here, there's a mechanic there, there's a mechanic here. Can this mechanic actually offer this thing? That way also, they were able to do it from a perspective of understanding their market. So because they've done the legwork, what most of us do is we sit down and we say, oh, I want to start a laundry business. I need money to start this laundry business. But actually you don't. All you need to do is go and take somebody's shirts, wash it. Even if you don't have soap, they've paid you. You can actually tell them, okay, I need 40% upfront payment for me to deliver this service, right? And then you pay me 60% when I bring the rest of your stuff. You use that 40% to buy the soap that you need to wash it. You wash it. You can even go to someone who has, like, you don't have to have your own iron. Just find another laundry mat that has the iron. Take it. Please, can I pay you 10 naira to use your iron for 1 minute? Iron the things, package it, and take it there. What does this person now know? This is the smallest version of that laundry business that you can have. I remember that lean approach I said, there's no money involved. So you have to think about most times what is happening is that you don't even have a clear value proposition. There's nothing you are selling. And so if you're not packaging anything to sell, you keep thinking that you need money to do it. But you don't need money to do it. You might need money to scale it as a business, but you don't need money to start selling a business. The most successful entrepreneurs that you will find stumbled across entrepreneurship by accident. Because all they did was, wow, my auntie can't go from here to here because Okada, because this. And then they say, okay, let me try to see if I can find this keke. Let me get this keke man and get him. Okay, 8 a.m. every day, please report here. Take my auntie to her office. Okay, my auntie maybe has 2 or 3 friends. Can we stop along the way and pick them up? So it is about initiative and understanding what at the very, 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 very minute, what is the exact value proposition you're offering. If there's a value proposition that you're offering and someone in the market is willing to buy it, you don't need money to start it. You don't need money to start it. There's always ways to facilitate it. Once you've been able to 2, 3 options, it's easy to have. Sometimes it's tough to tell people because maybe this is your only lifeline, right? But entrepreneurship is also not easy. Entrepreneurship, I always say, is it's a highly risky business to get involved in. So if you're not in the business of taking risks, get a job, work for somebody else. There's nothing wrong with it. It is about understanding. Not everybody will be a business owner. Some people are meant to be executive, driving other people's businesses. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It is not only, sometimes the top management, the top executives in the company even make more money than the owners of the business. Right? So you have to know what your skill set is. If you're not adaptable, if you don't have the mindset of leading, and maybe entrepreneurship is not for you, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It is just a matter of identifying that. Can we take the next question?
Yes. So this question comes from Idris Abdullahi. He says, my business is block making using machines, but I'm facing the challenge of my financial problem due to the low capital. How can I manage my business so that I can make it?
So I don't know much about this business, and I won't be able to give you practical, like a practical tip of what to do, right? But I would say speak to mentors, speak to people who have been there in the space for long. How can you, is it possible for you to take orders before you make the blocks? If it's possible for you to take orders, is it possible for you to start some form of structure where you can offer, let's say, like a 10% discount against your competitors if somebody pays you 40%, you know, or 20% upfront? Maybe that 20% is what you use to sort of make that. But I don't know, because I don't know the block making business. But what I can assure you is speak to mentors, speak to established people in the field. I'm not talking about your friend who also does the business. No, I'm talking about somebody who has been doing it for 30, 40 years. Meet them and tell them, I'm in this business and I'm a bit stuck now. I don't think I can move from this point to this point. How do I do it? That's one. Two, remember what I said about your net worth is your social currency. You need to speak to people who are in the field, who are in architecture, who are in business. Sometimes you'll be able to find someone, if you leverage having like a systematic, maybe partnership or something, knowing people in this space, you know, find architects, go to universities. Even if you don't know anybody, go to universities, go to departments of architecture, speak to professors, speak to people there. Some people might know someone they can put you in touch with and just make a recommendation. That recommendation can come in and you might be able to get full upfront payments for supply. So I would say leverage on mentorship, which is maybe also the same, and then your social currency as well. You need to learn. I can't have all the answers to specific industry questions because I'm not an industry professional, but that's what I would say. There's always a way. There's absolutely always a way.
Next question. That answered your question. So the next question is coming from Yamino. He said, we appreciate you for welcoming development. My question is, how can I improve my business to target customers?
How can you improve? I'm not sure I get that question. How can I improve? If you can call him, maybe he can ask the question himself. That might help me understand.
How can I improve my business to target customers? Okay. Before I call him, I think we can move to the next question.
Okay.
So this one says, how can we modify or adapt the basic business model to fit our local realities, especially for small businesses within limited resources?
Can you take that question again?
How can we modify or adapt the basic business model to fit our local realities, especially for small businesses with limited resources?
So I think maybe the issue is, you know, sometimes there's like perspective to questions. This is also maybe not very specific because this is like saying, how do I use the entire session of today and apply it to my, but that has been the essence of my presentation. So what I would say is probably just take it step by step, go from the first slide, you know, and actually take a pen and paper and write it down. If you don't know what your value proposition is, try to narrow down, you know, and get your value proposition. Then I think take the lean business model that I mentioned in terms of practical tools and strategy. Remember I said that. So your lean startup approach, what is the product at the skeletal form of it? What is the product that you want to offer to people? Take that product and go and tell your neighbor, please, I want to sell you this business. I want to sell you this thing. It's 10 naira. Can you buy it? If it's important enough, they will buy it, not just because they're your neighbor, but because, okay, if they tell you, no, I can't buy this thing, it's because so, and so, you have to do it in this way. You go back and you repackage whatever it is that you're selling. It doesn't have to be a physical good. It can be a service. Repackage it. Okay, go to a bank, go to the local markets, you know, go and stay around where where people stay and try to sell it to people. Whatever service you're offering, you know what the funny thing about competition, we all think that if you find your competitor that, okay, this person is doing better than you, but actually if you position yourself close to your competitor, you get the most customers. So if you go to a market, you notice that all the pepper sellers, they stay in the same place. You are more likely to get a customer in the pepper selling area of the market if you position your store there than if you take your pepper selling to like the cotton aspects of the market where they sell cottons. Nobody will buy it. So sometimes there's advantage in, you know, working with your competitors. Find out, okay, who are the people that are already here? Go to where the, you know, where their stores or whatever is, you know, positioned, and try to see, okay, this is what they are selling to people. How can I make my own better? What else can I package in this offering that I'm doing? Don't focus so much on the money. If you have a real solution to sell to people, you will make money. There's no two ways about it. It might take a while. I'm not saying you'll make it immediately, but if there's a real value proposition. So I want you to focus on identifying the real value proposition, identifying the markets that you want to sell this value proposition to, and then use the lean startup approach. Maybe that's what I meant by those practical tools. This is what you can take home tomorrow and go and start. So start small, test it very quickly. Okay, this person doesn't like it. That person too didn't like it. They recommended I do this. Let me change it and repackage it in this way, until you get to a form where when you tell people, okay, this is nice, even if it's a recipe, right? If you're making akara today and people are like, oh, this is normal, I can't really buy it. I have one woman in the front of my street. Maybe add minced meat to your own. Tomorrow you might see that there's this person that sells akara with minced meat too. So they are willing to drive all the way to Wunti Gate to go and buy your own kosai because it has minced meat inside, right? So go to the, I think they'll share this slide with you, I believe. The practical tools and strategies are meant at the things I want you to do coming out of this session. Then I also mentioned, go on YouTube, watch financial literacy, the basic things of like, okay, what is actually profit? What qualifies as profit? How do I make money? What are business models when I don't have initial capital? You know, look up videos like that, and it will give you like basic financial literacy that I was talking about. Again, also don't focus on building out logos. Logos can come later. Do you know that all the master sports, if I ask you guys now, you probably know the best master sports. I don't want to be biased, so I'm not going to say, but you probably know the best master sports in Belgium, and they don't have a logo, but you're able to identify it. So if there's a value proposition that they're offering, people will even create your own branding image for you. You won't have to go on Google or ChatGPT and keep reiterating, you know, versions of like, okay, what should my logo be, or what should my vision statement or mission? You have no business. First of all, sell a product. When you've sold the product, then you can say what your vision and mission is. If you can't sell to 1, 2, 3, 4 people, you have no business doing logo and vision and mission statement. We have maybe 1 or 2 more questions. Can we take
I hope that answered your question. So yeah, this is the last question, which he has 2 questions coming from Ibrahim. The first question says, from your experience, what core habits or mental frameworks should entrepreneurs develop early to ensure their business foundation can support growth for 5 to 10 years?
So again, I think it's
Should I take the second question?
Let me just take this. I think it's going back to the mindset. So those are the mindsets that you need to have, to be honest. I think we spoke about resilience and adaptability is a very key one, and having business structure early on. So when you're thinking about growth for 5 years, you want to make sure that you have business structure, you have, you know, your processes are documented. There's a way of doing things. You're not just doing whatever happens. Do the right thing when nobody is watching and when nobody is interested in your business. If you do, you are well equipped to push yourself in when any opportunity opens up. So you know what they say, that the best is when opportunity meets preparedness. You want to be prepared for when those doors of opportunities open. So I think just again, go back to the pillars that we spoke about in terms of mindset. Those will guide you. We didn't take any questions from any ladies. Do we not have questions from ladies?
We don't have any question from any lady. So the last question goes by this. Many entrepreneurs start with enthusiasm but lose momentum when challenges hit. What is the most important mindset shift that can help a business owner stay consistent and resilient during difficult periods?
So I think it's interesting because you might think that, for example, this session is for the sake of, you know, having like a well put together company, but actually it's for you. If you're able to identify, so let me tell you, if you know directly who you are targeting and who are solving a problem for, it's very difficult to give up on it. So if your auntie had an issue, let's say where maybe she needed to get a scan and she wasn't able to do it, or she wasn't able to get a referral from a doctor. If you decide today, I want to build a telehealth platform because I want to be able to connect doctors from all over the world to even give local Bauchi people access to that service, it's very difficult for you to give up on it because there's a personal iteration to it. This is the importance of understanding your market and understanding the value proposition that you offer to it. I want you to, whatever problem that you're solving, if you're setting up a traditional business like just to make money, I'm telling you, people think that money is a big mindset driver. It's a lie. Money is not a mindset driver. You'll be surprised the number of people that give up on 10,000 businesses because there's no money in this one, there's no money in this one. Unfortunately, your next try was the difference between you and making that profit that you were looking for, but you were not resilient enough to stay the test of time and try again for the 10th time. The people who make money in these businesses, they make it because there's a real understanding of this is a problem that I'm trying to solve for the people in my immediate community. So we spoke about local context and cultural context, right? Once you have that understanding, once there's that relatability, it is, I will tell you, is the easiest thing to stick around and build resilience. Even if the government is going to come and overturn you, still stay there and you say, no, I have to continue this. Those are the people who build businesses. And this is why entrepreneurship is not for everybody. There's a set of people that should be entrepreneurs, and there's a set of people that should be executors. There's nothing wrong with, identifying where you are on both sides. Not everybody will be able to see the problem. Sometimes the solution is right there. Like it is, or let me say, the problem is staring at you right in the face. But because it's not for you that has the entrepreneurial mindset, it's very difficult for you. You will see that even if we did like a 5-day lecture on, for example, identifying your value proposition, we might come out of this with only 10 people being able to actually identify it. And why? It's because those 10 people are probably the ones that have the entrepreneurial mindset. They're the ones who have actually they are building a solution for a problem that exists, for a problem that they can relate to, for a problem that is from a personal perspective of maybe a neighbor or a friend or someone I know has this problem, and so I'm building this. It doesn't matter how fancy. So I'll give you an example that I've met a company based in the US though, but what they do is they furnish houses for professionals. And it was bought from a place where the person moved to another city and they didn't have a house. They couldn't get a furnished apartment. By the time they rented an apartment, it took forever. Then to furnish it, they had to start buying things, one by one. It took them maybe 3 months to settle in. You have work, you have family, you have kids. If you have kids, you know how difficult it is to stay for 3 months without being able to have good access to your kitchen, furnishing. So you might think that this business, okay, yes, it's for elites, but actually it's from a pain point, right? And so what this person did was to set up a business where if you have your house today, we can come in today, tomorrow, 3 days and set you up a fully functional house. So it's coming from a pain point. So you have to be able to identify what is the pain point. Who is this person? What is my relatability? If you wake up today and you say, okay, I'm just going to invest in cashew, you're not going to have anything to do. But if you have a backstory where maybe the grandfather who had like a cashew farm and did this, it is more difficult for you to give up on that journey. So please make sure that you're actually building for a problem. You're building a solution to a problem that you've seen, you've experienced firsthand, or you know someone personal to you who has experienced firsthand. That's the only way you're going to be able to stick around for this journey. Otherwise, money is not much of a good motivator.
Thank you so much, Ms. Aisha.
Thank you again, Mrs. Aisha, for being so generous with your time and knowledge.
No problem. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
So I think I would say today's business and foundation mindset session has been truly insightful. And I can tell the attendees wouldn't want you to end it here, but we have no choice. But the good news is there's a lot more coming because this is just the beginning. We have more sessions that are powerful for mindset shifts in our businesses. So thank you so much, Ms. Aisha Bala Wunti. Thank you so much for attending. And for the attendees, we appreciate your presence here too. And I hope you have some takeaways, which after this session would be sending a post-event form, which would beseech you guys should fill it so we can know where we can do better. And also, you guys should follow us on our foundation social media handles at the WAC Foundation. So thank you so much, and thank you very much from my own end.
The Wunti Al-Khair Foundation, empowering lives, transforming communities.